Hello, my name is Vladdy Hazelnut, and in this series of videos we're gonna test different video cards and computer configurations and show you how to adjust SL or your computer to make up for it and hopefully cut down on some of the lag while you're racing. That's one of the most common complaints, is people can't race, and sometimes it just turns out they either don't have a powerful enough computer or they haven't compensated for what they do have. So we'll get started in this series and show everybody how to start with the lowest settings first. In this first part, we're going to go ahead and test out a lower end system. This would be comparable to, like, say, an older desktop or a lower end laptop, like a 1-core processor, integrated graphics, 15-inch monitor, that kind of an older setup. One of the things you're going to find with people that run a lower end setup is they're not going to have the correct graphics settings and adjustments for what they would need in order to race. So let's go to Edit, Preferences, and we'll go to Graphics, and we'll see here we're in mid. And this is a lot of people will log into SL and it'll default to what it thinks you need for your video system, and sometimes it's lower than what people want, so they'll go ahead and raise it. You know, they'll move it up to mid or they'll move it up to high, and they'll do this because it looks cool. I mean, you have better lights and avatars look better and it makes people look pretty. Well, the downside is your computer can't handle it, so you're going to get all kinds of lag because it's your video card and your processor trying to keep up with what SL's trying to stream to it, and it just can't do it. So let's go ahead and test this out and see how it works with this setting. So let's take a couple laps with the standard mid settings, and then at the end of it I will post minimum, max, and average frame rate for what we got out of it. But as you're gonna see, it's not gonna be too impressive. We're in third gear right now, and see how it's just not, you know, stuff isn't resin. You're coming to stuff before you even see it. If we were in fourth gear, this would just be horrid. I mean, this isn't even any fun to drive, let alone being able to be competitive. One of our main problems is that for almost any type of racing, you're going to want at least 256 meters of draw distance, because you need to be able to load that whole sim into your cache in order for it to be there. Otherwise, as you're moving, it keeps trying to load stuff again. So if we go ahead and move this up to 256, and anytime you make any changes or anything like this, or when you first come onto a track to race, is what you're going to want to do first is you're going to take 2, 3, maybe 4 laps at a slow speed in order to let everything load into your cache. I'm not going to do that now. I've already done it ahead of time. Okay, as you can see, it isn't all that much more impressive. Looks a little better. I mean, we can see farther. The track's rezzed out for us, but the car is still very jumpy, and it's just, you know, it just doesn't handle. So what it boils down to is this computer, the processor and the video card, they just can't handle this graphics setting. I mean, that's obvious. So that's what we're gonna have to do, is go back to our graphics and move them to low. And again, we're going to want that draw distance at 256, even though we're in low. And everything else, we can just shut off. You leave your objects where they're at, because that really doesn't make much difference. Flexiprims you can shut off, trees you can shut off, avatars you can shut off. We're racing. It doesn't need to be pretty. We're going for performance here. So let's go ahead and close that out. And this is third gear again. It's a little better. It's still kind of choppy, and some of this is due to me running video capture at the same time. It's actually a little bit smoother than this without the video capture. So as you can see here, our frame rates from the mid-video settings at 256 draw distance were a minimum of 4, a maximum of 10, and an average of around 6. When we went to the low graphics, we ended up with a minimum of 11, a max of 35, and an average of 23. So that's quite an increase, and 23 frames per second is about where SL looks alright. Film is shot around 24 frames per second. So now that we've gone into our low graphics mode, what else can we do? Well, one of the things you can do is run it windowed. If you're running this in a maxed screen, you're using all the resolution of your computer. If you go ahead and change this, we can go up here and it says run in windowed mode. We can drop this down to 800 by 600. And actually might want to, I don't know, stretch it a little bit. Okay, no, that'll work. Make sure everything fits in there. So now we're in windowed mode, and we'll take a lap and see what changes here. See here we're running a little bit smoother, and again this is with video capture software on, so it hogs up some resources. But we've smoothed it out quite a bit, and you'll notice after this that our frame rates most likely went up again. Well, here we can see that by switching into a smaller window, we've taken our frame rates from low graphics from a minimum of 11, a max of 35, and an average of 23, and we've upped them to a minimum of 16, a max of 53, with an average of 36. So that's, you know, not bad just for looking at it in a little bit smaller window. So where do we go from here? What can we do now? Well, one of the first things we want to check is we want to make sure that we have our bandwidth set correctly. So we're going to go to our network folder, and here it has maximum bandwidth. And it'll go from a low of 30 or 50, probably depending on which viewer you're using. And some of the third-party viewers like this one will go all the way up to 10 gigs. Well, the thing is, SL only sees 1500 kilobytes per second of bandwidth, so it really doesn't matter. So in order to set this correctly, what you want to do is you want to check your bandwidth, like go to speedtest.net or something and check the speed of your internet connection, and if you can, try and test it to either a server in Dallas, Texas, or one in San Francisco, California, because that's where the SL servers are located. And go ahead and get your download speed from that, and then is what you're going to want to do is if it's lower than 1500 or 1.5 gigs, you're going to want to set the speed to 80% of that. If you're higher than that, which most people nowadays are gonna have better than 1.5 meg service, just go ahead and put it at 1500 and leave it there. Like, say I have 8 meg service, so I have way more than 1.5. But there's no sense in setting mine at 7 or 8 because SL won't see it anyway, so it doesn't matter. So just leave it at 1500.